Good morning.
No.
We go to chapter 20 in economics. Government failure. The market can fail. As long as the market can fail, government can also fail. So it means in the course of government trying to correct the market failure through intervention, government might as well fail. So that is what we want to look into today. Government failure. Government failure occurs if the intervention of government brings about welfare loss rather than gain. So what am I saying here? It simply means in the course of government trying to solve that problem, which is social cost exceeding social benefits, government is bringing more, is making it more like increasing the social cost rather than social benefits. That is government failure. Government failure, market failure is social cost greater than social benefits. This is market failure, right? Yes or no, please?
Yes.
Okay. So government wants to correct this. To correct this, it means social costs should be less than social benefits. If this happens, then government has succeeded through its intervention. On the other hand, if it still remains the way it is, then there's government failure. Do you understand government failure here? Do you understand government failure now?
Yes.
Good. So therefore, there is government failure if the social cost of intervention exceeds the social benefit of intervention. The social cost of intervention exceeds the social benefit of intervention. There's this government failure, which means the welfare of the society is not still maximized. So what are the reasons why government might fail? The first one, distortion of price signal. When we talk about price signal, remember, price signal is also a problem in one of the reasons why we have market failure. When we are unable to, because firms are giving us a wrong signal in the market, it makes us to behave irrationally. Do you get the point I'm making here? There's a signal from the market which makes us to behave irrationally. We bought too much or too little, which is a market failure. So now, government is also using the same tactics now, the same strategy to bring about a market failure or government failure. So what is price signal saying here? I'm going to read and explain. Government sometimes make decisions to reduce the cost of production. Reducing the cost of production will mean that the price becomes easy, the price falls, right? Price becomes affordable. When the cost of production falls, price becomes affordable, yes or no?
Yes.
So government wants to solve the problem of a high cost of production, which brings about a higher price. A higher price, an unaffordable price for consumers is a market failure. If goods and services are not affordable, that's a market failure, yes or no?
Yes.
So government might have to solve that problem through intervention, which is government failure. So in the course of solving that problem, government that have figured out that the higher price is as a result of a high cost of production. So government wants to reduce the cost of production. Or government wants to reduce cost of, or increase cost of importation. Some firms, they produce domestically. So let me just read further, you understand what I'm saying. Here, I said, decision to reduce the cost of production, but this may lead to a higher prices. For example here, government might raise taxes on importation to allow domestic firms who might have stopped production due to cheaper imports remain in the industry and make profits. This means consumers may have to pay higher prices for the product. The point is, government wants to try to correct a market failure by encouraging domestic firms to continue production. Because these domestic firms, if they are unable to continue production, it means the GDP of the country would fall. It means they will be out of business. And when they are out of business, supply would reduce, which will make price to increase. Yes or no?
Yes.
So to encourage them to continue to produce, government is discouraging us from buying import goods. Get the point here. Government wants to encourage domestic production. To encourage domestic production, government has to make imported products to be expensive for us to buy. Are you getting the point I'm making here? So, because if government doesn't do that, it means we will still continue to buy cheap imported goods. As a result of that, we will not buy domestic products. Then businesses will be a lot of domestic businesses will be out of operations, which means a lot of people will lose their jobs. Increasing unemployment is a market failure. Do you get the point here? So government is trying to encourage the consumption of domestic products. And to do that, government is trying to increase taxes on importation, which is tariffs. So by increasing tariffs, it means domestic businesses will be able to sell more based on the fact that domestic consumption would increase. But the problem is, imported are cheap imported products. Now that there's no imported products anymore, it means we have to do with domestic production. Yes or no? So those domestic production might not be enough for our consumption. Then that means price will increase because supply is less than demand. That is distortion of price signal. Do we get it or not? I'm going to try to summarize it again. We are talking about price distortion, which means a price signal or signal in the market about price, which might lead to government failure. The example I made there is importation or increasing taxes on importation. When government increases taxes if government increases taxes on importation, it means imported goods become expensive. As a result of that, we stop buying imported goods. We concentrate, or we are encouraged to buy domestic products. Because we stop buying the imported goods, because they are expensive, the consumption of domestic products would increase, bringing about an increase in demand, which might exceed supply. So if demand exceeds supply, price will rise again. Yes or no? So if yes or no, please.
Yes.
So if price rises again, what happens? Government failure. So government is trying to solve a problem by encouraging domestic firms to continue production so that we can consume domestic products. But in the course of doing that, the domestic products are not enough for our consumption, which means there is deficit. So deficit will bring about a higher price because there is shortage in the market. So price increases again. So is that benefiting consumers or not? Is it benefiting consumers when price increases?